You're listening to StoryStruck. I'm Rachel, an editor and writing coach.
And I'm Nino, a ghostwriter and book coach. Welcome to our curious community where we dive into everything books and writing.
Now, let's get into the episode.
Welcome, Meredith Evridge, to the StoryStruck podcast. So Meredith is a creative writing coach and word up. I got it. So Meredith, why don't you take it away? Tell us a bit about yourself. Sorry for the chaotic introduction.
You did a great job. Hi, I'm Meredith. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I don't think I've been on a podcast before. I think I'm typically on the other side of it. So this will be very interesting. I am a creative writing coach. I'm in Central Oregon, and I'm very invested in quality communication. Miscommunication actually gives me an upset stomach. So that is the catalyst for my career.
Well, I mean, that's a great catalyst because in this day and age, we need people who care about clear communication.
Agreed.
It's accurate communication. So whenever we were talking before, you had mentioned that you like to be the bridge between the writer and their audience. And I love that concept because as a writer, we get real lost in our own sauce sometimes, and we forget to touch base and think about, why does this matter? And why, who is this resonating with? Rachel and I, coming from a marketing background, that was something that was very ingrained in us from that prior to being writers in other ways, because in marketing, that's what you do, right? In marketing, you look at all of these facets of the customer experience, but writers often don't think about the reader experience. Can you talk about a bit about how you guide people through that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So a lot of the time when my clients send me something that they've written, I can see that I can see them in it. I can hear their voice. I can understand their intention. So I'm reading it with my own eyeballs. And then also as an editor and as a writing coach. I was an editor before I was a writing coach and a ghostwriter. So I've been in the word game for a bit. So I'm reading it from that perspective. And then I'm also reading it from their potential audience's perspective. And it can be a particular kind of person, or it can just be any human that might read it. And I notice words or phrases that are not clear and that might feel confusing for someone else to read. And so I point them out and I say, okay, what are you trying to say with this? For example, I have a client who has written some kids' books, and the client really likes to be abstract, a lot. And I'm always like, that's so cool. That's so interesting. However, your audience is children and they need things spelled out. And the client will be like, well, it's okay. They'll get it in 10 or 20 years. And I'll be like, well, look, I think it's an interesting idea. And I don't want to shoot down their ideas, right? But I'm also thinking you want your audience to understand your message, to receive your story. You can kind of I often use this analogy of a round hole and a square peg. And so the writer, it's a round hole, the audience, square peg. And so what do we need to do to shape this so that it actually gets into the audience and is understood? And I also ask my clients, how do you want your audience, or how do you want readers to engage with what you're writing? Is it educational? Do you want them to giggle? Do you want to inspire them? So there's a lot of different things that go into it. I have another client who I was going to bring up. I have a client who wrote a memoir, and it's kind of like an outline of their life, and then there's snapshots throughout of anecdotes. And sorry, I'm trying to just get my thoughts in order. I have a lot of thoughts running into each other right now.
So we get it.
I guess you just kind of have to put yourself in the shoes of your audience and ask yourself, are they gonna be able to keep up with the number of names you're dropping? In this book alone, it's 300 pages. You have so many anecdotes. You have Jim this and Jack that, and you want the audience to keep track of the story, but also you're throwing too many things at them. So what do you have to do to make sure the writer or the reader walks away feeling like I understand the book? And a little bit of abstract is great. A little bit of, food for thought is great. But if your audience doesn't understand your message, that's miscommunication to me. That's an upset stomach.
That is beautiful. I love
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. So I was just
No,
going to
you're
loop
good.
back to the bridge analogy. So I identify as a bridge between the writer and the audience. I also feel like a mediator, and I also feel like a translator. So those are the three that those are some of the hats I wear.
That
And
is
as any
awesome.
coach, you got to wear a lot of
Right?
hats, right?
I really liked how you were talking about like round peg and the square, like, and making that fit together. So like I had a ghostwriting client and he's a PhD and he wanted to write a book, but it was for everyday people. He's like, I want to write this for them. And when we were working together, he was starting to get really clinical. And I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, press pause here.
Take out the
This is
jargon.
not, yeah, I'm like, we're not doing
Yeah.
jargon. This is not your research papers that you're used to writing or your grant papers. Like, it's not going to go. And then, like, I was suggesting that we add kind of like stories in there because he had the funniest stories from his personal life that like played into it. And he's like, can't do that. Like, nobody's going to want to hear that. I'm like, no, they are going to love this story about the llama. Like, we have to have that in the book. Like, this is the best thing ever.
Where they
And
connect with you. That's how they
yeah,
emotionally are invested.
yeah. So it was just
Yeah.
really neat to see that, like, in my ghostwriting of helping to people to have, their voice that matches what they're doing.
Yeah.
Kind of like him, right? He needed the voice for, the patient everyday person, and he was trying to use the clinical voice. And there's that mismatch, that miscommunication that
Yeah.
if they picked that book up and they saw that, they'd be like, oh, I don't want to read this. This is too much.
Yeah. And if you want to put jargon in there, then you have to go into it knowing that your audience is going to be a narrower group of people. In this memoir that I was just talking about with the life story and then the snapshots and anecdotes, it's written by a very brilliant diesel mechanic. And so there's a lot of like, I don't even know what they're called, but types of engines and parts of engines and stories where he like saves the day. And they're really cool stories, but I'm like, okay, the average person isn't going to know, fill in the blank. Like, I always am like, how can you dumb it down? How can you make it more absorbable for the average person? And if you want your audience to be people that are very familiar with John Deere tractors and marine engines, go for it. But if you're trying to appeal to a larger audience, then you just have to put yourself in your audience's shoes.
Yeah, because you have to ask yourself, like, what the fuck does it matter? Like, why do they care? Like, what does this add to the story? And does it distract from it? Because, like, if that chapter is about overcoming obstacles and you're sitting there explaining these different parts of the engine, like, that's taking away from what the chapter is actually about. And so you have to, like, sit there and say, like, do some killing your darlings, right? And cutting out those pieces of, like, maybe it's just you're working on a car, and this stuff happens. Maybe we don't need to explain the transmission, and it's kind of tough. Like, and I know, like, so with Rachel, she has got a very wonderful, grounded way of delivering these things. I think this was great, but I think, if you do this and this, it could really help these things and these things, right? And so it doesn't feel like a blow to your writer's ego whenever you're getting that feedback. I have a sense that you're probably along those same lines where you're very honest, but you're very kind with it. Like, how have you found, like, navigating the writer ego?
The writer ego, meaning the like not wanting to cut certain things out.
Or just telling them, communicating what the edits that need to happen, or why these things are that disconnect, and how to approach that without making them feel, because I know that for me, I've been very, very fragile in my writing in the past, and just the slightest bit of, like, this isn't perfect was like, tailspin, I'm quitting writing, and so, like, having somebody come with a certain method, a certain way of doing it really resonates with me. But other people are like, no, I need brutal honesty. Like, how do you navigate the different clients, the different ways of offering your feedback?
I had a client for a little while who I don't know if it was right when we started working together or right before, but they told me I nearly deleted everything in Google Drive that I've ever written. And I was absolutely shocked. Don't do it. Don't delete it. Whatever you do, like, don't make these kinds of decisions when you're feeling really low self-esteem. That's not going to, I would say I am straightforward but I'm also emotionally intelligent and intuitive, in my opinion. And I can tell when people can handle it and when they are feeling fragile. And so the way that I find my typical approach is when someone sends me a piece and we're looking at it, I tell them to read it out loud in their own voice so that I can hear. So it's one way of, sorry. So when you're reading something someone's written, you can see their voice kind of, but when they're reading it out loud to you, you get to hear it in a really, really special, unique way, and it's illuminating. And so then we can both hear it. And often my clients haven't read it out loud yet. And so afterwards I ask them, how was that reading out loud? What do you think? And so I just open the floor instead of being like, with my edits, I'm asking, is this success? Like, do you feel like you nailed it? Or do you feel like you need to adjust something? If so, what do you think it is? I ask about how the writing process went. I ask if there were sticky parts and, the thought process around them. So we just kind of go into analytical mode together. And then after they have told me, I don't like the intro, or I feel like this line is off, like in a poem. Also, I also wanted to state, because I told you both before, but I also wanted to state that I work with nonfiction and fiction writers, and in any format. So it can be books, it can be poetry, short stories, essays, whatever it is, just
They are
creative writing.
as fuck, y'all.
Yeah, I am versatile. Thank you. And I was telling you guys, it can be tricky to explain that to people, because I'll be like, yeah, anything with words. And they'll be like, so like a book? And I'm like, that has words. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Can you bring me back to what I was saying?
So
I think
yeah,
there's a little bit of a lot of spice on this episode here. I think we're all a little more spicy here.
Okay.
so
I remember.
reading out loud
Yes,
and
thank
having
you.
them give the feedback to you.
Yes, thank you so much. First, I have them read out loud. I ask them what they think. We work on it. I help them problem solve. I help them reflect on their own work. I help them develop the muscle of, okay, I'm in revising mode now, or I'm in editing mode. And then I come in with my opinions and my suggestions. And I'm direct, but I'm not cutthroat. I say, if your audience is this kind of a person and they're reading this word, if they could think that you're talking about this thing, and then they're going to just be thrown off. What do you think about that? Or I'll say, we can talk about punctuation. We can talk about like this comma here changes the whole vibe. Let's talk about this comma. So yeah, so it feels like a softer approach to have them be the ones to point out, here is something that I want to be different about this. But if they say, like I have a client who sometimes writes poetry and she spits it out in like 5 minutes, and it's just this like chunk of straight from her heart. And sometimes she says, I don't want any edits. I want it to be raw. I like it just the way it is. And so for me, I'm like, great, case closed, because some folks, they're writing to share with others, and some folks, they are just writing for themselves. And so if it's something you want to publish, and if your goal is to connect with a lot of people, then you're going to have to probably be open to some suggestions, some feedback. But if your goal is just to get it out and have it be like, this is what's, I'm using my hands a lot. If they spit it out, if they get it out on paper and they're like, wow, there it is, right there, plain as day. I don't need your opinion, basically. And this is kind of rare, but it does happen. And so then I accept that completely, and I don't ever push it, because the artist needs to get it more in tune with when something is done. A lot of writers and a lot of creatives struggle, as you both know, with trying to figure out when something is done. And so if they know that it's done, it's done.
Right. And I like that you approach that with, I don't know, it reminds me of therapy, because maybe I have a little bit of a writer's therapist there, where it like, because in therapy where they're like, and how do you feel about that? Where they're teaching you how to navigate your experiences and your own emotions and stuff like that. So you have them read out loud, and then you therapize them a little bit to help guide them through, like, how was your experience with this? And then offer your input. I think that's a great approach, which is, one of the things we wanted to talk about on the podcast episode is finding the right coach for you, because all three of us are some flavor of coach, and based on your own need and personality, one person might align better with you. And so if you need somebody to help you like really work through the process of your writing and connect with your readers and polish up the communication of things. And like Meredith might be your person, right? But then like we were saying before, like if you need someone to organize that chaos and help you get things like really structured, like Rachel is your human, you know. And so
And
which
you,
is
and what's yours?
my specialty is if you need like sudden inspiration and momentum, like talk to me for 5 minutes and you're just like super pumped to get going.
Yeah, Nino
Sweet.
is my muse. Like when I'm working on my
Ooh.
books, so I'm writing my first fiction novel. I've done exclusively nonfiction for my ghostwriting, and I'm like, time to do my book in my name. So like she's my muse, and like anytime I'm like,
Amazing.
okay, I got like this thing, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna send it to you, and then like I pull tarot cards for my stuff, and I'm like, this is the tarot card I got, and like I'm thinking this, what is this? And then like she just like gets my like stuff pumping, and she'll feed me ideas
Oh,
back, and I'm like, yeah.
awesome. That's amazing. So you're both, so you mentioned you know each other through marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so copywriting, I was the director of brand voice and copy at a startup, and I was going to hire a freelancer to help me write some stuff. Ended up
And I'm the
hiring Nino,
freelancer.
and like, yeah, and it just like, then we were like professional buddies, and then we were like entrepreneurial buddies, and then we're like, we're just buddies now, like all around, right? We never met in person, and like, just like my best friend ever. So,
Yeah.
You've never met in person?
No, we're
no.
in the same room.
That's so wild.
The problem is we're both a little hermity. We live in different states, so we're like, one of these days, one of us will go and
Oh
you know
gosh,
stay with the other
Yeah.
or whatever.
Our
you
goal is
got
to find a
time.
conference and meet at a conference together and just have
Yeah,
a blast.
That sounds
yeah,
fun, and also it sounds like your current format is working for you both. So why, if it works,
Yeah,
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
there you go.
yeah. So what like I lost my train of thought. It's a very spicy day.
My stuff is like going off the charts today. So Meredith,
Finding the right writing coach for you.
the right writing coach.
Right.
Yeah.
So I do have a follow-up question for you.
Sure.
So you were talking about the diverse range of writers that you work with, and I'm just curious, like where in their writing journey would you come in? So like for myself, I'm more of like structural editor, developmental editor. So like I don't exactly take them from the spark of their idea. Like I'm more working with them when they have almost a full draft or a complete draft. I might do like some workshops and teaching on other parts, but for my one-on-one work, it's when they're already ready to start working on revisions. And like Nino, she's with the ideation and like, let's get your book, started,
Okay.
and I'll guide you through writing. So like kind of where do you work with folks?
I'm really good with folks who are in the ideation phase all the way until the last the last I is dotted, the last T is crossed. But the thing is, I prefer to work with writers that are a bit more established. They have a little more, like they actually have a writing practice. I've
Yep.
worked with plenty of folks who want to become writers, and I can do it, but it's not using the skills that I want to use when I'm working with a little more seasoned writers. I don't need they don't need to have been published or whatever. It doesn't matter if any of my clients, it doesn't matter if they want to ever publish or not. That doesn't matter to me. But yeah, I mean, plenty of folks have come to me and said, I've always wanted to write a book. One person said, I've wanted to write a book since I was 5, and I just don't know how to get started. I know what it's going to be about, but I just don't know the first steps or the next steps. I had a client who came to me and said, I have a whole fantasy series in my head. I just don't know how to get it on paper. And so it's so much fun to me because they have the writing muscles, like they already set aside time to write. It's already part of their lifestyle. We don't have to build something from scratch. And so I can come, because sometimes with people who want to become writers, I feel like they need, like, I don't want to nag them. I don't want to be like, are you setting aside time, like you said? And I'm never going to, guilt trip someone for not writing or whatever. I really like working with people who are stoked about their writing goals, and like that has its own momentum. So I don't feel like I need to bring that energy. I'm there to help them maintain their momentum in setting their goals and then smashing them. That's on my website. Set your goals and then smash them. And then I've also worked with plenty of folks who have said, like, I have this collection of essays and I want to make a book out of them. Or I wrote this book, I published it, but I would like to publish it again with these changes. And so I'm all in. Like, I love my job. I love being a writing coach. It's actually a dream come true. I feel like I custom made a job for myself. It's so much fun and it's fulfilling because I'm helping people express themselves, which is really important to me, to feel like my clients are writing from a place of knowing themselves. Anyway, I'm totally getting off track. I'm like answering a different question that wasn't asked, but anyway, I just really love writing coaching.
You said that I custom made a job for myself. Like and I think like Rachel and I can agree because like yeah, I'm a book coach, but my book coaching is not. I pull tarot cards during book coaching. Like it's not something that book coach. I'm like literally like channeling things while I'm coaching people through things, right? And Rachel's editing coaching style is so freaking unique that she's literally helping the inventor of it create a whole like guidance system to teach other editors how to edit this way, and so each of us having like our own flavor of it, but I really resonate with that. That it's very much something that's built from you and stuff, because then it's like so uniquely you. And so I love that you work with like established writers, because like I feel like I really thrive with the writers who are like really new to it, which is probably why with the nonfiction and in the more of the self-help and business and memoir space and stuff, like, so these people are just
a lot of books.
But then like I have the one that like Rachel and I are doing, my Gemini writing program, which seems to attract some fiction writers. Like I'm working with Rachel and another person who are both writing fiction books and stuff, and we're that one's like really driven by the tarot cards and stuff. And so it's so cool and it's so unique, and when you can build your business around your own uniqueness, it's real fun and it's real awesome, and I was just really excited about it.
I'm glad you can relate. I have learned the art of staying in my own lane over the past several years of running my own business, and really like I know that I'm versatile, and maybe it doesn't seem like I have narrowed my scope, but I used to just kind of say yes to any project and any kind of writer, and I'd be like, I'm gonna make it work. And I could, and I did, but it wasn't joy. I've gotten really good at being honest with people that are like, hey, will you do this? And I'll be like, you know what? That's not my specialty. That's not my zone of genius, but I can probably send you to someone else who wants to do that and is going to nail it. And it's great for me that I know what you two do now, because I can send people to you. If it's not a perfect fit for me, then I can send them to you.
I think that's great to keep in mind as well, because like I had someone and they came to me for a project and I was like, I really don't think it's a good fit, and they took offense to it, and they're like, well, why not? And I'm like, because I can't serve you right. Like, it's not that I don't believe in your book. I think your book is beautiful and great, but that's not my specialty. That's like, could I do it? Like, yeah, we could do it, but I can't do it as good as somebody else is going to do it for you. And I'm not going to give you feedback in the way that you want it. I'm not going to do a service to you. It'll be a disservice. And so I think that's important for writers not to read between the lines, right? That clear communication of, if you have a question, ask it. And, we want to make sure that you have the best person for you. And if that's not us, we're going to be honest, because we genuinely want you to succeed.
Right? That's a huge piece of the integrity in it. If it's really like just not aligned, like having the integrity to be like, yeah, I'm not gonna, and also I think that brings it down to like when you're coaching out of a place of service instead of like the hunger or the status or the whatever, and that's something that coaches have to learn how to navigate.
I feel energized by my current people that I'm working with. And that is so valuable to me. It's so valuable. This business that I've built, it's all mine. And I'm doing what I want. I'm doing what I love to do. And so I don't feel like I have to draw on like spare energy reserves or be like, okay, I got to pound this coffee to make it through. And actually another thing I'm learning about myself is working independently on stuff is less energizing for me. For example, I'm editing someone's book right now. I primarily market myself as a writing coach, but I'm also a very seasoned editor. And I do love editing, but I've learned that I really shine when I'm having face-to-face conversations with clients, and it can be virtual, it can be in person, but I'm in the space of supporting writers and helping them troubleshoot things like, hey, this is coming up, I don't know what to do. And I'll be like, yes, let's figure it out together. And then I can follow up with them in a couple of weeks via text between sessions and be like, hey, just sending some inspiration your way. How's that going? That's really, it's like really, I really love that. Editing, while I will always love it, because it's fixing miscommunication, right? I do sometimes have to be like, okay, I'm going to have a cup of coffee. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to just bust this out. And
It's more spoons.
It is more spoons. And again, don't get me wrong. I love editing, but I'm not talking to anyone.
You're gonna love what I'm doing then.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, my mentor that I met, she does this really cool real-time editing for books. And so instead of like hand it off to you, keep it for 8 weeks, then I give it back to you and say good luck, she's actually like works with them like chapter by chapter through the book with a lifetime editing system. And so like the writer's getting that real-time feedback for their book. Yes, and they're getting to ask questions, they're getting to grow their skills as a writer. And so then, as you're going through, it's a lighter lift for you as an editor because they already have been learning what you want to do. So you're not having to do as much edits because they're actually implementing them. And instead of at the beginning where we had to teach you or like really give a lot of examples of like show versus tell, now when I'm in there, I can just put my shorthand with a highlight and they're like, oh man, I did that again. And they're going back in and fixing it instead of like, having to do that. And so it's just a really cool.
Helping them recognize. Yeah, I think it's probably similar to, I love so this is your mentor does this?
My mentor does this, yeah. So I'm helping her to like condense this down into a method and like a little like workshop to like teach it to other editors. Yeah, it's fun. I love it. And it's just really neat how it also like helps keep the momentum going too, right? Where, it can be really hard when you give that client that feedback and it's like deer in the headlights and they might like panic. They might not want to read your feedback. They might get like upset by the feedback, right? Yeah,
Yes.
So
and sometimes when I edit some person's stuff, I mess it up. There's red everywhere. And it's fun for me. I'm like, I fixed it. I found what needed to be fixed. But then probably when they're receiving it, it's like, shoot, this is a big project that I have to like.
Yes.
I actually was editing coaching a little bit too in the past year, like teaching someone how to edit their own work, which was super cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, it's tricky. So I was telling you, it's tricky to market these different things because there's so many things I can do for writers. And so, yeah, it's tricky, but.
Yeah, I feel like the core essence is that communication and voice aspect that no matter what they're writing, you're able to help them to bring their vision across in a way that's authentic to their voice and their vision, but also matches what their audience needs to hear. And I think that is such a powerful spot or a powerful thing to do.
I told you so much. If you need someone to organize your chaos, Jill is your girl.
Really? That could be helpful.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that's what you do. And I think that is so powerful because I see that a lot of people are very nervous when they think of of like author voice, writer style. They're like, what is this thing in the void and how do I even get it? And I don't even know if I have one, or they're worried they're just copying somebody else, doing this, doing that. And I think that helping them do that is magic. And like it's such a powerful piece that you're able to connect them with, because once they do that, their writing is going to be so much easier in the future. And they're also going to be communicating clear off the page because now they have learned how to communicate on the page too, right? It helps.
We're making the world a better place, one conversation at a time. Yeah. I think that everyone has the opportunity, or most folks probably have the opportunity to find their voice if they want to. I do think that sometimes as a starting point, you can look at writers that you really admire, like poets that really resonate with you, and you can think, okay, what about it really resonates with me? Is it the sensory details, like even the length of the lines, like the formatting? It's like easy to absorb or easy to picture, and so you can kind of sometimes use that as a jumping off point. And it's not that you're copying other people, but you're recognizing, like, I see magic in this person's writing and I want magic in my own writing. And so I'm just going to try on something that they're doing and then maybe customize it for myself until it feels aligned with me.
It's like that saying with, like, if you didn't want it, it wouldn't be meant for you, or whatever that saying is. Have you heard that before? You know, like that you want is meant for you because you want it. Like, it resonates with you for a reason, basically. And I literally, just before jumping on this, I was doing a coaching call with a client, and like, she's talking about these authors that she loves, and that was the exact same kind of feedback too. It's just like, you love this aspect of Jen Sincero because she makes it feel approachable. She makes you feel like your wise older sister who's giving you advice and stuff. And you like Brene Brown because of her quality of having it grounded in research. So you have a trust factor with Brene Brown because you know that it's based in science. And so this is why you're loving these authors and you're wanting to bring that same quality into your writing. So let's explore, you know, what other elements that you need to integrate that are unique to you while keeping that friendly tone, that relatable tone, and rooted in the research, and marrying those together and breaking apart those things, because sometimes we feel like we have to emulate those authors that we love because that's what we know is good writing. And I think sometimes school can kind of misdirect our minds a little bit with that, where we feel like we have to be, you know, blank author in order to be a good writer, that we can't just be ourselves, you know, warts and all on the page and still be considered a good writer. And sometimes I notice that for people who have a very academic background, like coming out of that academic writing and into something that's more raw is extremely difficult, but also so vital for them.
It's kind of like technical writing and then emotional. You put emotions into it.
Because so much of what we've learned through school, especially for those like Rachel who've gone all the way through PhD, you know, into something very analytical, like a science, right? Like psychology is what Rachel did, but you know, like any sort of very academic kind of world, you have to bring in emotion, you know, because so much of academic writing is void of it. And so learning how to bring that in and then overcoming all of those limiting beliefs and all of the mental hurdles that you have to go through to realize that this is actually making it better. You know, the emotion is what's actually going to resonate with real people, with your everyday people who are going to read your book. You know, that the academic writing stays in academia because these are the only people who resonate with it because they know how to understand it. They know how to read it in order to understand it and translate it into what they are wanting to work it into. But the average person does not have that. And how do you bring in the emotion? How do you bring in the layman's terms and those kind of grounded elements? So that way, you know, your neighbor down the street is going to be able to read your writing, take something from it, and like move from it. You know, it's really important.
Beautifully said, and congratulations on your PhD. That's really
Thank you. It was a very long time ago because I'm an old fogey now, but thank you.
Yeah, that's impressive. One thing, so two thoughts. One is that just because someone is lauded as a good writer, it doesn't mean that their work will resonate with every human. And so I try to remind my clients, like, it's just got to be from right here. You've got to express you, and then it'll find the people that it's meant to find. Like, it's tricky because I say that, like, you know, your audience will find you. And then I'm also like, okay, but you got to work to, you know, connect with your audience. So it's kind of both. The other thought was, what was my thought? This sucks.
Well, I'll interrupt you while you're thinking of it. That's what I call soul writing. When I talk to people about, like, you have to write from your soul, because when you get really lost in writing from your mind, you add in all of these layers that people have always taught you, right? Like, oh no, you need to add more like the Agatha Christie into your mystery novel, in order for it to actually be good, or like, okay, if I write this character like this, like how will so and so, what will these people think of it, or what will this, like you get too lost in your mind. So when you start from a place of writing from your soul instead of your mind, that's when you get that really transformational writing that then you can take and bring your mind into it to polish it up and make it, it's like I feel like the three of us are like, I help you write from your soul, helps you clean that up for your audience, and then Rachel helps you edit it so they can actually read it.
Yes. We've got some overlap.
Yeah.
By the way, my tagline is "Speak Your Soul."
I didn't know that.
Yeah. You reminded me. So I remind my clients to be in touch with their why. So they're 3 months in or 6 months into a project and they're totally like, I'm losing steam. I was like, why do I even write? And they're losing it. And so I bring them back to, why did you start this in the first place? And so with a lot of folks, I have them write it down when we start. If I remember, sometimes I forget, but sometimes I just have them write down what is like, why do you need to write? Why is this the medium? Why, like, it could be, I mean, for me, piano is a big call. Like, piano calls me, sit down and play. And for other folks, it's like, the blank canvas or whatever. But for my clients, I'm like, what is calling you to write? Why do you need to do that? You need to remember that throughout your process, because there's going to be a lot of discouragement and there's going to be a lot of moments where you're feeling lost, and there's going to be difficulty managing scheduling, and like what can interrupt your writing flow will interrupt your writing flow. But having your why real close to you in a separate document to just whip out and be like, oh yeah, this is why I'm here. I have found that helps a lot of folks stay on track.
Yes, I can totally get behind that, because like I know for my book, knowing why I was, because I was writing a novel. It was it wasn't a book project for somebody else, or it wasn't something that was feeding into my business, like something nonfiction about writing that was feeding into my business or anything like that. Like it was just a novel that I was just like called to write. Having that why of like, who is this for, because it was inspired by my niece and then morphed into something, and just like really always coming back to like, okay, these are for the people like her who are in this life situation, and they need to realize that it's okay to be the villain in someone else's story, that you can lean on chosen family when family is not someone you can lean on, and always coming back to that, and like, this has a purpose for readers, for my readers. Like it's coming back to that act of service, right? Really helped me keep going whenever things were like, I might just, like, oh, this is just a silly story, because that's what happened with me with my novels for a long time. It's just like, I wrote 5,000 words. Maybe this is not for me, and I threw a lot away. So that was really helpful, among other things, like having a writing community like Rachel.
Yeah, that's big. That is vital. I really love thinking of writing as an act of service. I've never heard it that way, but there's a quote, and I will not be able to remember it, but it's something about the feeling that you get when you read something that someone else wrote, and it's just the thing you need in that moment.
Yes.
And so so that's the reason that you keep writing, is just for those moments. I don't remember the quote.
I literally have a client. We talk about this every time, because this is it is a very unique method of things. She's taking her real life experiences and she's fictionalizing it. She's putting her real life into a fiction narrative in order to help people, because there's certain things she can't actually write in a nonfiction capacity. But and so like bringing those components in and constantly remembering, like, no, there's going to be a woman who reads your book in the future, and she's going to be sobbing because this is going to be the first time she feels seen on the page. Like,
right for her.
It's so exactly, keep writing it because she needs it. Remember that she needs it and stuff to get through those hard times. It can be so, so powerful. And we have an episode about like the impact of fiction and how fiction changes the world, and how vital story is for creating positive change. We had an episode come out recently and we were talking about, you know, how our art is the spark of change for our world, right? That it is the start of change for so many
Absolutely.
things, and how vital nonfiction is for helping somebody act those changes, like to actually take the path that they need to enact those changes. So
Yes. Right for them, and then also right for you.
Yes,
Yeah.
right for both. Yeah, the writing
Yeah.
experience, like it can be so powerful and transformative for the writer as well as for the reader. And I think that that's
Yes.
important for us to remember, you know, that
Mhm.
it's not just for them, right? It's for us. But to know that there is that impact for both. Even like for
for sure.
fiction. Like Nina was saying, fiction can be just as powerful, if not more powerful, than like a self-help nonfiction book because
Mhm.
we're being told through story. But then the
Yeah.
writer also goes through that journey. Even if you're not writing a memoir, you're writing fiction, you're going through a journey inside because you are living with those characters. And there's a reason, there's that why, like you talked about, Meredith, of why you're writing that book. And that's like
Mhm.
your North Star to take you from start
That's
to
it.
the end.
That's it. North Star.
Yeah,
One
it's
way.
so funny. We all have like different analogies for that. I call it the anchor statement, and just like North Star, and
Ooh,
then yeah, because it's the thing that keeps you anchored, right?
cool. I have gained so much from this conversation. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us, Meredith. Is there anything you'd like to kind of add here as we wrap up at the end? Tell people where they can find you, all that good stuff.
My website is wordupcoaching.com, and then my Insta is wordup.coaching. And
Awesome.
I think I've said everything I need to say.
No,
Yeah.
because what's the name of your podcast? You have a
Podcast is not part of my biz, but it's about wonder, and my friend Wolf and I started it. It's called the Wonder Pod, WUNDERPOD, all one word, and it's on all the platforms. And we talk about wonder. We also talk about whatever the hell comes to mind. And so we get off track and we're laughing really hard, and we're also talking about grief and loss. And I mean, we just started posting them. We're about to drop the next one in a few days. So the second one. So we're on the newer end of it, but we have like 5 already recorded. We're very excited. They're all so unique. We have very cool, creative, wonderful friends that bring their own flavor to each episode, and it's just so much fun. So
awesome. I love it. It
It
sounds like
is.
such fun. All of the links to everything will be linked below. So if you're wanting to find Meredith, work with them, and or read the podcast, sure, read the podcast. There's some transcripts, I'm sure, but enjoy all of their lovely chaos on that. You can find that at the show notes in the description below. And thank you so much, Meredith, for coming on. This was a blast. I hope all of the listeners enjoyed all of our North Spicy Chaos today.
Oh, man. Thank you so much to you both.
Thank you for listening. Check out the show notes for details and links from the episode. And don't forget to subscribe and follow for more. Special thanks to our composer, Micah Silverstein. Enjoy the rest of the music.